So the other day I went to get a haircut, and while I was sitting there, I noticed a copy of Harper's Bazaar on the table. I picked it up, and right there on the cover was a familiar face, Namjoon, RM. And I knew he had done a cover shoot with the magazine, but I honestly didn't realize that there was a full written interview inside as well. And it felt like such a pleasant surprise. And I couldn't take any photos at the time at the salon, but later at home I found that some fans had already shared pictures online. So that gave me the idea to translate and share this interview with you all because it's very deep and rich as to be expected from RM. And I wanted to talk through it together in this video. And before we get into the full interview, let's talk about a bit of context. So recently RM graced the September issue cover of Harper's Bazaar in collaboration with the Italian luxury brand Bottega Veneta. And according to the brand, the shoot highlighted RM's refined sense of aesthetics and modern sensibility, all carried with his own charisma, making his presence stand out effortlessly. And in the accompanying interview, RM reflected on the experience of representing a brand. He admitted that in the past, he used to practice countless poses in front of a mirror, wanting to look photogenic. Now, being photographed feels heavier and more serious, he said. But because it was with a magazine he loves, alongside a photographer and staff he respects, he said the shoot felt comfortable. And in the end, he walked away feeling proud and happy. So that's great. He also spoke about the moments when he feels most alive, as RM of BTS is when he's on stage performing or standing before fans with the new album he's proud of. As Kim Namjoon, the individual, it's when he's with close friends, drinking and laughing, or when he's in a place where nobody recognizes him, free to do whatever he wants. He also mentioned that travel comes closest to giving him that feeling, though he quickly starts longing for home. And ultimately, he said that working on music again has made him feel alive once more. So let's talk about this interview. Every time RM does an interview or writes a long message on Weverse, I truly appreciate because I cherish his words as an individual, as a thinker, and as a lyricist. Okay, so let's start here. Harper's Bazaar. I'm writing these questions here in Seoul, South Korea, at the beginning of July, just as the heat wave sets in. I'm curious about the moment in which you'll be writing your answers. Where are you right now? In what time and state? How has your day been? So I'm assuming this is like an email interview exchange, given this question that the staff of Harper's Bazaar is asking. RM, I'm at a studio in Los Angeles. I just wrapped up ideation for the first track and now I'm sitting out on the terrace. I have used up so much energy that my legs are trembling. It's 7 p.m. here, the humidity is low, and the weather's wonderful. As for today, well, it's been both thrilling and draining with all the emotions that come from setting out on a long journey again after a year and a half. So this is exciting when he said that I just wrapped up ideation for the first track. And I'm assuming that this is not necessarily the first track on the upcoming album, like in terms of track list, but the first track that they are working on in LA, with a song camp and everything going on. And yeah, at 7 p.m., he said that he recently shared that he finishes daily routine, like music work at around 8 p.m., 9 p.m. So I guess he works on music in the afternoon until like 7-ish, 8-ish, 9-ish. But yeah, this is exciting information. All right, next question. Harper's Bazaar. How was the cover shoot with Bazaar? Since it's been a while since you stood in front of the camera, at first you seemed just a little shy. RM, back then I wanted to look photogenic. So I would stand in front of the mirror and practice countless expressions and poses. These days though, having my photo taken feels heavier, more serious, and a bit more difficult. I wonder how much I should let go, what mood and attitude I should bring. Still, I have always really liked Bazaar's features, and the Bottega Veneta staff were so kind. And since I was working with photographer Mok Chung-wook, I could feel more at ease. To grace the cover of a magazine and represent a brand is no easy task, but once I pulled it off, I felt proud. I really enjoyed it. So if you think about it, same with other BTS members, he hasn't done a photo shoot for a while, for the past year and a half, like almost 2 years. And that must have felt really awkward in the beginning, which BTS talked about when they did an OT7 live a few weeks ago. They said that on the day of, they did a very simple photo shoot, and all they did was laughing, looking at each other, looking awkward. I think Jimin talked about that briefly. Because before the military service, having photo shoots like this must have come really natural because it's a natural part of their career. They do it so often. But, having not stood in front of a camera officially for almost 2 years, that could have, he could have felt nerve-wracking, nervous in the very beginning. I couldn't imagine. But he did it. Yeah, he looked phenomenal in these photos. All right, back to the interview. Harper's Bazaar. About 2 years ago, in an interview with El Pais, you said, "Now, standing before 30, I like myself more than when I was 30. I like myself more than when I was 20. Soon, I'll be serving in the military, which is a major event in the life of every Korean man. After that, I will undoubtedly be a different person, hopefully a better, wiser one. How close are you now to what you imagined then? Do you feel you have become that better, wiser person?" I like these questions. It seems like they have done their research, and they know what RM as an artist and individual is all about. So I really appreciate these questions. So that's what Harper's Bazaar asked, and this is the El Pais interview that they're referring to. And RM said, "Over this time, I feel as though I have lost quite a lot, though I cannot quite put my finger on what exactly. Maybe it has something to do with the year I spent making the album Right Place, Wrong Person, wrestling with doubts and wandering thoughts. I'm not sure if I have truly become a better or wiser person, but I do feel that I'm growing into more of an adult. Whether that's something admirable, I'm still not sure." Interesting. And Harper's Bazaar. "Do you like yourself more now than you did 2 years ago?" RM. "My relationship with myself hasn't changed. I swing between really liking myself and really disliking myself. That's still the same." Now, one of the themes, recurring themes within this interview is this duality. And I think his answer right here really refers to that. My relationship with myself hasn't changed. I swing between really liking myself and really disliking myself. That's still the same. 여전히 너무 좋다가 너무 싫다가 해요. Next question. Harper's Bazaar. "Musicians are people who can turn their emotions and thoughts into results that are both linguistic and beyond language at the same time. What keywords are floating through your mind these days? I ask with the hope that some of those words or phrases might one day be transformed into music." RM. "I feel like I'm in a state where, having lost so much, I'm now ready to fill myself up again. But if you're clenching both fists too tightly, paradoxically, there's no room to hold anything more. The saying, 'No man is an island,' also comes to mind. After all, a person can't live as a completely isolated island. Maybe I want to be an island, but I can't be one. To be honest, these days, I'm not even sure if I truly want to be one anymore." Laughs. Now, the phrase, "no man is an island," it comes from John Donne's meditation, I think 17, from 1624, and it's part of his devotions upon emergent occasions. And it goes something like, "No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main." So Dong's meditation is about human interconnectedness, that no person can live entirely alone or in isolation because we are all part of a greater whole. So when RM says 섬이고 싶지만 섬일 수 없달까요? 사실 요즘은 제가 섬이고 싶은지도 잘 모르겠네요. Maybe I want to be an island, but I can't be one. Honestly, these days, I'm not even sure if I really want to be one anymore. He's reflecting on that exact idea, that even if he sometimes wishes to detach or isolate himself, human beings and he himself, RM himself, can't actually exist apart from others. Very interesting. Harper's Bazaar. As both pop star RM and young man Kim Namjoon, how do you maintain balance between those two selves? Super cool question. RM. A friend once told me that the most fascinating, impressive people are those who can stay undercover the longest. And he said I was like that, or they said I was like that too. To use a metaphor, it's like being a police officer by day and a thief by night. That thought was a real comfort to me because I find both sides intriguing. In the past, I used to place a lot of importance on the very idea of balance, but not anymore. Now, I focus on pushing both of my contrasting sides all the way to their extremes. There's no hierarchy between them. I want to live both fully, and hopefully balance will come naturally. If I get worn out here, I can find comfort over there, or the other way around. Interesting. Again, the theme of duality. Harper's Bazaar. Then, for both sides of you, RM and Kim Namjoon, when do you feel most alive? RM. Publicly, it's always the same. When I'm on stage performing, or when I've just released an album. In those moments, I feel like I'm standing before fans as the version of myself I like most, and the one I can be proud of. Privately, it's when I'm having drinks with close friends and feel unguarded, closer to being just a genuine human being. Or when I'm somewhere nobody recognizes me, doing whatever I want. Traveling probably comes closest to that feeling, though I can't enjoy it for too long before I start wanting to go home. On the other hand, now that I have gone back to creating again, I feel alive these days, thanks to that process itself. Harper's Bazaar. They say no one can perfectly chart out their own life. What words or scenes have you encountered recently that helped broaden your perspective? RM. I recently went to a classical concert by Maestro Chung Myung-hun. Chung Myung-hun, right here. Apart from when I was very young, it was my first time experiencing a proper classical performance. I was fascinated by the passion of people working in such a completely different field and by the unique way the performance unfolded. And in the end, I was genuinely moved. After the concert, the maestro asked me what I thought the difference was between like and love. Actually, I'm not sure if Chung Myung-won asked him personally or asked the audience. So let me say that again. After the concert, the maestro asked what the difference was between like and love. It's hard to fully capture in writing, but since he's someone who works with sound, he explained it like this. Like is just, I like you, but love is, I love you. Drawing the word out with opera vocalization. I thought it was such a witty, delightful answer that it made me laugh. It also left me wondering, what is the difference between liking and loving, or between fondness and love for you? Very interesting. Harper's Bazaar. You're not only an artist yourself, but also one of the most devoted admirers of the arts. I imagine that must come from something deeply rooted within you. What has kept you immersed in the world of art for so long? Don't you ever get tired of it? RM. Honestly, it's just the most fun thing. At the end of the day, nothing beats what's fun. I've always been curious about other people, and art is humanity's ultimate form of expression, right after survival. That fascinates me. And the fact that every person, every medium carries its own distinct texture of art, that fascinates me too. Just like how Maestro Chung Myung-hoon's concert moved me. To sum it up, I think the reasons I still remain in the world of art are probably fun, a sense of calling, and love. Harper's Bazaar. Ambition for growth seems to be a key word not just for BTS as a group, but also for you personally. What I find interesting is that your ambition doesn't sound like, I want to be a better musician, but more like, I want to be a better person. Do you think a good person is the same as a kind person? How would you define a good person? Awesome question. RM says. No, awesome question is what I said. I really appreciate these questions that they're asking. RM said, everyone defines a good person differently, and even my own thoughts on it shift. But I think good people are those who constantly question themselves, asking if they are truly good, if they are truly decent adults. Sometimes I feel an urge to transcend all that and live in a very simple, clear way. But just as Zhangzi, Lao Tzu, carried heavy volumes of words to point towards the Tao, the concept of Tao. Maybe self-doubt and the drive to grow are themselves conditions of being a good person. Let me read that again. 장자, 노자, those are ancient Chinese philosophers, Zhangzi and Lao Tzu. So sometimes I feel an urge to transcend all that and live in a very simple, clear way. But just as Zhangzi and Lao Tzu carried heavy volumes of words to point towards Tao, maybe self-doubt and the drive to grow are themselves conditions of being a good person. And if, on top of that, you carry a certain boyish recklessness and innocence, I think that makes someone irresistibly compelling. So that duality again. Philosophical and yet childish, like boyish recklessness. I love that combination. By the way, 장자, 노자. 장자, 노자. Yeah. These are very well-known ancient philosophers that he just referred to. Yeah. Next question. Harper's Bazaar. You said you want to push both sides of yourself to the very end. What are the warp and weft that makes up who you are? RM. A heart that loves the world and people deeply, and the heart that resists them. Yin and yang. Thesis and antithesis. So here I added yin and yang as a natural equivalent of 정과 반, which is the wording he used, which literally means affirmation and opposition, or affirmation and negation. And warp and weft, mentioned by Harper's Bazaar in their question, is a metaphor, borrowed from weaving. Warp is a vertical threads held in tension on a loom, and weft is the horizontal threads woven across them. So together, warp and weft interlace to form fabric. So when Harper's Bazaar asked RM, 당신을 구성하는 신할과 날실은 무엇인가요? They're literally saying, what are the warp and weft that make up who you are? Meaning, what are the fundamental threads that weave together to form you? So it's a poetic way of asking what opposite forces or core elements make up your identity. And what the RM say? A heart that loves the world and people deeply, and the heart that resists them, or a heart that just hates the world and people, or human beings. Yin and yang, thesis and antithesis. Super cool. And in a sense, that's really relatable, personally. All right, next one, Harper's Bazaar. The first time I really became interested in you as a musician was with your 2016 self-written track, Reflection. I remember being struck by how deeply I related to the lines. I find this movie so interesting. I want to film it well every single day. 나는 이 영화가 너무 재밌어. 매일매일 잘 찍고 싶어. And the line. I want to be free. Free even from freedom. 나는 자유롭고 싶다. 자유에게서 자유롭고 싶다. I think anyone who has wanted to film their own movie well must have felt the same. As I replay that song now, I'd like to end this letter with a few questions I've always wanted to ask. What genre would your movie be, and what title would you give it? RM, my life would probably be like a documentary disguised as a comedy or a farce. I would call it Knew It All Along. 이럴 줄 알았지. If I could meet myself back then, standing by the 뚝섬, I think I would tell him, see, you've got through it somehow. Didn't you know it? See, you got through it somehow. Didn't you know it would turn out like this? Don't worry, I'll be your friend from the future. Harper's Bazaar. And have you found your freedom in freedom? RM. I think I'll just go on mumbling to myself. I want to be free from freedom for the rest of my life. Oh, and the climax of this film hasn't arrived yet. Not even the director or God knows how it will end. Wow, that's a fascinating interview. By the way, Tuksum is one of RM's favorite places in Korea that he has talked about multiple times here and there. And Reflection is also one of my favorite tracks by RM. I know every life's a movie. We got different stars and stories. We got different nights and mornings. Our scenarios is boring. That song, right? So yeah, that was a super fascinating interview. And what stands out the most for me is how seamlessly RM moves between two identities. Global pop icon BTS member RM and introspective thinker, and how honestly, candidly, he acknowledges the tension between them. And rather than trying to resolve the duality, he actually embraces it. And he talks about being like police by day and thief by night, or the way one self can get exhausted while the other offers comfort. And that image really captures what makes RM compelling. He doesn't present a polished monolith of selfhood, but a layered personality where contradictions are allowed to coexist. And another recurring thread is his fascination with loss and renewal. He says that after the military, he feels like he has lost much, though he isn't exactly sure what. Yet in the same breath, he describes being ready to fill himself back up. And that paradox, loss as preparation for gain, so to say, frames his outlook not as static but cyclical. It echoes throughout the interview, from his reflections on freedom from freedom to the way travel leaves him restless, always pushing him back toward work and creation. And what's also striking is how art functions as both his refuge and his compass. His description of attending Maestro Chung Myung-won's classical concert is like a window into how he processed the world. Because for him, music or painting or literature are never hobbies on the side. They are the medium through which he interrogates human existence. And him finding the maestro's playful distinction between like and love fascinating also shows that for RM, art is not just about art is about delight, curiosity, and surprise. And when he speaks of being a good person, that was quite fascinating. He refuses to settle on a simple definition. Right? To him, goodness is not purity or perfection, but the act of constant questioning. And here, he sounds closer to a philosopher than a celebrity or a musician. He likens it to Zhuangzi and Laozi's paradoxes, the philosophers, ancient philosophers, and pointing out that doubt and striving are not failures, but necessary conditions of ethical life. And yeah, it's super insightful. And it gives us an insight into his worldview. Like the journey matters more than the end state. And perhaps the most striking part comes when he says he wants to be free even from freedom. And that's also part of the lyrics of Reflection. 난 자유에게서 자유롭고 싶다. And it's paradoxical, but it crystallizes the tension of a man who has achieved so much, yet remains weary of being confined, even by ideals like freedom or balance. Because what he wants is openness, movement, and the refusal to be pinned down. And that restlessness, I think, is what keeps his art alive. And yeah, once again, this interview reminds us that RM is a thinker, like negotiating these same uncertainties that define modern life. How to live real, and how to balance public and private selves, and how to grow without losing innocence. And the way he answers, like oscillating between humor and seriousness, suggests that he's comfortable living in contradictions. And maybe that's a lesson here. We don't have to choose between being being serious or playful, ambitious or doubtful, or artist or admire. We can be both at once and fully, just as RM described. And before we wrap up, there's also a video interview that came out alongside RM's Harper's Bazaar cover. This is the thumbnail. So on August 14th, the magazine's official YouTube channel released a feature titled, "Guys, RM has a lot he wanted to say. Gather around." And this one is much lighter in terms of tone, almost like a fun Q&A session. And the best part is that it comes with English subtitles, so I really recommend watching it yourself if you haven't already. And in the video, he opens up about all sorts of random but personal topics, from his favorite exhibitions and tips on how to enjoy art, and a funny story about playing sax during his military service, and on. And he even shares words that he keeps close to his heart, like everything happens for a reason, and God only gives us challenges the size of our vessel. And it's pretty charming because it shows another side of him, compared to the written interview. Less the philosopher we see in the written interview, and more the candid, witty Namjoon, who laughs at himself, tells offbeat stories, and still sneaks in bits of wisdom here and there. So yeah, if the written feature feels like a deep reflection, this video feels like sitting down with him in a casual conversation. So go check it out if you're interested. So now, let me end by some questions for you. Which version of RM resonates with you more? The deep, contemplative voice from the written interview, or the lighthearted, witty side from the video? And do you find comfort in his words about self-questioning, being a good person, which was one of the most fascinating parts of the interview for me? But whichever side you prefer, I think maybe the truth is that RM is both. And it's precisely that ability to hold contradictions that keeps us, or at least keeps me, fascinated. Okay? So yeah, feel free to discuss in the comments, but when you write your comments, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. Thank you guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.